A digital bathroom scale showing 155 pounds when it should have been empty. Chip crumbs on my keyboard. A car parked differently in my video game. 3 tiny details that unraveled 5 years of marriage and revealed the most shameless justification for cheating I've ever heard. This is a story about how the internet can both connect and destroy relationships. But this isn't about dating apps or social media messages. What happened to me was far more complicated, and the ending I found was something I never saw coming. I married Emma when I was just over 30, and she had barely turned 24. She was a recent college graduate looking for her first real job, and I already had my share in a business. I'd started with some friends. We were at different stages of life, but somehow it worked at least for a while. Emma found work close to home, literally. There was a 24-hour pharmacy kiosk just a few blocks from our apartment, and she got hired as the night shift pharmacist. The pay was better than other pharmacy jobs she'd looked at because of the overnight hours and the round-the-clock schedule. I was initially hesitant about her working nights, mainly worried about her safety. But when I checked out the setup before she started, I felt better about it. The kiosk locked securely from the inside at night, had security bars on the windows, and all transactions from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. happened through a small, reinforced window. They even had a panic button system installed. Since I couldn't see any real dangers, I gave her my blessing. She started the job, and life seemed to settle into a routine. But here's what I learned. Locks and security bars can only protect you from external threats. The real danger was already inside. The first crack in our relationship came from an unexpected source: my computer screen. One evening, Emma pointed at my monitor and demanded, "What is this supposed to be?" She was looking at a chat conversation I'd been having with a former colleague, Jennifer, who now worked in a related field. Jennifer was incredibly knowledgeable about the industry my partners and I were in, so I consulted with her regularly. I'd even tried recruiting her to join our company a few times. Now, you can't just pepper someone with work questions without being polite, so I'd occasionally ask how she was doing, inquire about her health, and thank her for her help. Basic professional courtesy. But Emma, partly due to her age, didn't see it that way. She saw those conversations and decided they were inappropriate. She threw a full-scale tantrum about my relationship with Jennifer. I explained exactly what I just told you, that Jennifer was a professional contact who provided valuable business insights. Emma seemed to accept this explanation, and I thought we'd moved past it. I was wrong. That conversation was just Emma planting seeds for what would come later. Life returned to normal. We were getting along well, no major complaints from either side. Then one day, my business partners called about an impromptu barbecue. That's the nature of entrepreneurship. You never know when you'll be free, so when everyone's available, you take advantage of it. "Want to come?" I asked Emma. I genuinely wanted her there. She initially agreed and started getting ready. But the next morning, just as we were supposed to leave, she changed her mind. "Actually, I need to work today. You go ahead and have fun." I checked her mood. She seemed fine. No attitude, no passive-aggressive comments. She told me to go and enjoy myself. So I packed up and left. Now, let me be clear about what happens when guys get together for barbecue. We cook meat, we drink beer, we solve the world's problems over a fire pit. It's not exactly a situation where you're constantly texting your wife. I sent Emma one text message that evening to let her know I was thinking of her. She was working her night shift, as expected. The next day, I drove home feeling relaxed and happy. When I got back to the apartment, I stripped off all my smoke-scented clothes and headed straight for the shower. On my way to the bathroom, I stepped on our digital scale, something I did habitually every time I passed it. The scale lit up and flashed 155 before recalibrating to show my actual weight of around 190 pounds. Now, digital scales have this quirk where they briefly display the last recorded weight before showing the current one. Emma weighs about 110 pounds, I weigh 190, and after a weekend of barbecue, maybe 195. But 155 pounds? That's not Emma. That's not me. That's someone else entirely. In my post-barbecue haze, I wasn't thinking clearly. I called out to Emma, "Hey, why is the scale showing 155 pounds?" She yelled back something about her friend stopping by and went back to what she was doing. I was too tired to process it further and took a nap. Here's what I realize now. I had weighed myself before leaving for the barbecue, and again when I got back. In that 24-hour window, there was no time for any friend to have visited, but my brain wasn't making those connections yet. The next day, Emma prepared to go back to work. "I worked an extra shift yesterday, so tonight is my regular shift," she said. I drove her to the pharmacy and decided to spend the evening relaxing at home with some computer games. I'm not a big gamer, maybe an hour or two per week, but sometimes when you're tired and want to decompress, games are perfect for shutting your brain off. I sat down at my computer and pressed the keys I typically use for gaming. Something crunched. I turned the keyboard upside down and chip crumbs fell out. I don't eat chips at my computer. Emma definitely doesn't eat chips at my computer. She barely knows how to turn the thing on. Then I launched my racing game, something I'd been playing consistently for 5 years. In this game, you can park your car right outside your virtual house. It's a small detail, but I always park in the same spot the same way. It's become muscle memory. But my car wasn't where I'd left it. It was parked at the house, but facing the wrong direction. Emma doesn't play this game. She doesn't know how to start it. There's a whole process, multiple steps to get into the game, and she's never shown any interest in gaming at all. So, someone else had been in my apartment. Someone who weighed 155 pounds. Someone who ate chips at my computer and tried playing my racing game. The pieces were starting to form a very unpleasant picture. I picked up my phone and called Emma at work. "Hey, did your friend leave anything here when she visited? Maybe something belonging to her kid?" If Emma had been innocent, she would have either confirmed that her friend had a child or said she couldn't talk right then and would call me back later. She would have bought herself time to think about why her husband was asking these specific questions. Instead, she was clearly distracted and probably busy at work. Without thinking, she said, "What kid? My friend doesn't have any kids." Got it. So someone else's kid had been in our apartment, a kid who weighed 155 pounds and had access to my gaming setup. I sat at home for maybe 5 more minutes before I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers, and I needed them immediately. Emma was working the night shift, sitting L1 in that pharmacy kiosk with nothing but internet access and maybe 1 customer per hour. She had plenty of time to explain what was going on. I drove to the pharmacy and knocked on the back entrance. A male voice called out from inside, "Other entrance! Use the window out front!" "This is Emma's husband. Open the door." The door opened, revealing a guy in his mid-20s. Nice sweater, designer jeans, perfectly styled hair. Not exactly the image of someone working a night shift at a pharmacy. "Hello, whose husband did you say you were?" I pushed past him and walked inside. There was Emma's tablet playing some movie. 2 cups of tea on the counter. Both of them were wearing house slippers, comfortable footwear you'd wear if you were settling in for a long, cozy evening together. Now everything made perfect sense. I looked directly at Emma and said, You're supposed to be working this shift L1 alone." Then I grabbed the guy by his sweater. He didn't resist at all, which surprised me. "How much do you weigh? About 155 pounds? I was angry enough to do something dramatic, but then I remembered where I was. There were security cameras everywhere. Whatever satisfaction I might get from confronting this situation physically would cost me way more in legal fees later. So I escorted both of them out of the pharmacy. And that's when Emma decided to offer her explanation. "What about your colleague Jennifer?" she said. "What about all your business trips and barbecue nights? What about all those times you don't answer your phone when I call? If we have an open relationship, why are you suddenly complaining? You can run around with Jennifer. So why can't I have someone too? If our relationship is that casual, then why am I supposed to sit around waiting for you?" Let me pause here to appreciate the absolute shamelessness of this logic. I'm being accused of having an affair with a professional colleague I'd consulted about business matters. My crime was asking Jennifer about her health and thanking her for her advice. Meanwhile, Emma is literally sitting in her workplace after hours with a 25-year-old guy, both of them in slippers drinking tea and watching movies together. But somehow, in her mind, these situations are equivalent. It gets better. This guy, let's call him Tyler, turned out to be Emma's former classmate from college. He'd gotten a job at the same pharmacy chain after graduation. I'd been dropping Emma off at work for months, completely confident that pharmacy staff was exclusively female. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a male pharmacist working the night shift at a small kiosk? It's rare enough that I never even considered it a possibility. But there was my rare exception, playing a starring role in the destruction of my marriage. Here's the thing that really got to me. Emma's justification wasn't denial or apology. It was accusation. She genuinely believed that my professional relationship with Jennifer gave her permission to have romantic evenings with Tyler in her workplace. The twisted logic was stunning. I could have had 1,000 opportunities for affairs throughout our marriage, but I didn't take them. I stayed faithful because that's what married people do. But apparently, I'd been wasting my time being faithful to someone who saw fidelity as optional. The next day, after a sleepless night, Emma came home to find her belongings packed and ready for relocation. She was moving out of my apartment, and our marriage was over. Looking back on this whole situation, I've learned something important. Computer games can actually be useful, especially when your spouse doesn't know how to turn them on. But more seriously, I learned that some people will take any excuse, no matter how flimsy, to justify behavior they already wanted to engage in. Emma didn't cheat because she thought I was unfaithful. She cheated because she wanted to, and she used my professional relationship with Jennifer as retroactive permission. The most insulting part wasn't the cheating itself, it was the assumption that I was stupid enough to accept her explanation. She genuinely expected me to nod, along with her logic, "Yes, you're right, Emma. My business conversations with Jennifer were exactly the same as your romantic evenings with Tyler. How silly of me not to see that." Some people cheat and feel guilty about it. Others cheat and blame their partners for making them do it. Emma fell into that second category, and that tells you everything you need to know about her character. The bathroom scale, the chip crumbs, the parked car in my video game, none of these details would have mattered if Emma had been honest about wanting to end our marriage. Instead, she chose deception, and when caught, she chose blame shifting. In the end, Tyler got to find out what kind of person he'd been involved with. Someone who'd lied to her husband for months while carrying on a relationship in her workplace, then try to justify it by accusing him of the same behavior. Good luck with that, Tyler. You're gonna need it. If you've ever discovered infidelity through unexpected details, the kind of tiny inconsistencies that reveal much bigger lies, share your story in the comments. Sometimes it's the smallest clues that expose the largest betrayals. And if you've been accused of cheating by someone who was actually cheating themselves, you know exactly how surreal that conversation feels. It's like being blamed for a crime you didn't commit by the person who actually committed it. The next story I'll be sharing involves a situation that makes Emma's bathroom scale revelation look straightforward. Stay tuned, because sometimes the truth is more twisted than any fiction you could imagine.